Let's do. How's it going, everyone? I need caffeine. I only had like 3 hours of sleep. So I'm waiting on RFK to walk out. I can actually show you here. Let me set the screen size. There we go. So we're ready to go. He should be coming out. 1 minute is when he's scheduled to speak. See what he's actually going to say. A lot of people are speculating that he's going to drop out. He's going to endorse Trump. I'm pretty sure that's probably what's going to happen because the Democratic Party seems to not like him too much. So obviously they're not going to get support from there. It seems like he's building a relationship with Trump. So I'm pretty sure that's probably what we're going to see here. It's weird how they cut the audio. My volume's on, but it's still showing no audio. Usually they at least would have like background noise or something. But, you know, PBS can do whatever they want, I guess. Can you guys hear me okay? How's the audio? Thanks for that like, whoever that was. Appreciate it. This goober's just gonna stand in front of the camera. How's it going? I'll stop watching TV for this. All right, man. Glad to have you on board. I went to your favorite place this morning, the VA, and get an eye appointment in. They dilated my eyes, so it's still kind of a little sensitive to light, like even just looking at the monitor. But yeah, I saw all your favorite old people there, and I felt really young again. There was some youngins there too, though. I'll say that. There were some people my age, so I was like, all right, okay, I'm not alone here, but there was definitely some old people too. I heard PBS. Are you talking about Judy Woodruff? In relation to what? The person that just popped up here? Oh, she's the one that lied about Trump and Netanyahu. I didn't actually hear about that. I haven't watched any news this morning because I was gone, doctor's appointment and grocery shopping and all that stuff. So I didn't hear about that. Let me see. Let me look it up. Let me get informed real quick. Judy Woodruff. Oh, yeah, dude. I see it here. PBS. Judy Woodruff apologized for falsely telling live audience Trump tried to talk Israel out of ceasefire deal. Okay, so it was her where that information came from. I knew I heard it from somewhere that there was some stuff going on, but she straight up just lied about it? A PBS senior correspondent apologized Wednesday after falsely telling her audience that former President Donald Trump tried to talk Israel out of ceasefire amid its ongoing war in Gaza. Judy Woodruff passed off blame for the blunder by clarifying that she based the flimsy scoop on outside reporting she had read before broadcasting from the DNC in Chicago on Monday. The reporting is that former President Trump is on the phone with Prime Minister of Israel, urging him not to cut a deal right now because it's believed that would help the Harris campaign. And she admitted it? She admitted she lied? I'm surprised she didn't just take that to her grave. I guess they kind of pinned it on her where she couldn't really back out of it, right? Who knows whether that will come about or not, but I have to think the Harris campaign would like for President Biden to do what presidents do, which is work on that one. Woodruff caught plenty of flack online for the comment, overwhelmingly from those who pointed out that the rumors she was citing were proved false days before she regurgitated them live on air. I didn't actually see her say that at the DNC. Of course, I didn't watch all of the DNC, so I'm sure a lot of that snuck by me, but yikes. On Wednesday, the former NewsHour host said she wanted to clarify the remarks she made about the ongoing ceasefire talks. As I said, this was not based on my original reporting. I was referring to reports I had read. Okay, she's going to try and pass it off like, oh, this is just something that I read that I just happened to give a speech about at the DNC. Okay, come on, lady. You know what you did. And she's apologized on X. She didn't even do like a formal apology. Yeah, let me see what she said. So on X, she's saying, I want to clarify my remarks on the PBS News special on Monday night about the ongoing ceasefire talks in the Middle East. As I said, this was not based on my original reporting. I was referring to reports I had read in Axios and Reuters about former President Trump having spoken to Israel Prime Minister. In the live TV moment, I repeated the story because I hadn't seen later reporting that both sides denied it. This was a mistake, and I apologize for it. So she posted a tweet to actually say that she was sorry. Yeah, that's circled pretty quickly too. Everybody was saying it. Anyone else would have been canceled and ran out of town. Yeah, that's a big deal. She was accusing him of like criminal charges there. That's not something you just kind of throw around. Jesus, these people. Yeah, when did this come out? This morning? Oh, this was the 21st. This is actually late. Jeez. They're calling her a PBS propagandist. I dig it. Because she's definitely not a journalist. Jeez, man. So she makes up a story and blames someone else, kind of backs up Trump's claims that people are just making stuff up. I mean, for this, they did make stuff up. Where did that come from? Some journalist reported on it and then they just started citing it like it was fact. And there's no proof of it, even though that's a serious offense. But all of the media, not all of them, The Hill, that's a pretty big media company, are like reporting on it, that she issued an apology. Okay, yeah, Fox News definitely reported on it. New York Times. Whoa. New York Times is not really apologizing. It says PBS Woodruff calls... Oh, come on. Quit giving me ads. PBS Woodruff calls comments suggesting she suggested that he did that. Not that she flat out said that he did. Suggesting Trump and Netanyahu discuss ceasefire, a mistake. This world, man. These people. Even the New York Times. Suggesting. No, that's what you said. PBS. Yeah, Yahoo reported it. All right, well. At least she's honest. She came out and apologized. The video was pretty cut and dry. Exactly. It's not suggesting. She made a claim. She made a statement, a false statement. So supposedly RFK is coming out here and he's gonna drop out and he's going to endorse Trump. That's been all the rumors. I don't 100% trust the rumors because the rumors last night also was that Beyonce was going to perform at the DNC and she didn't show up at all. So rumors don't mean anything. I know a few nights ago, Tim Walz is a son and he's autistic, and they've been firing memes at this guy. There was a point where Tim Walz is giving his speech and his son starts crying and he's like, you know, really proud of his dad, and they are just memeing the heck out of this guy, which is kind of sad because he's, you know, he's autistic. And again, I guess that's life. I guess that's just how things go now. It's X or Twitter, so this kind of stuff is gonna happen. There's so many memes of like comparing him to Barron and Trump, and how like Barron wouldn't cry at his dad's not inauguration, but accepting the candidacy. Yeah, bunch of cringy stuff going on. Biden's making claims that he's fixing the border, even though he's not. I don't know who runs his X account, but it's anything that he posts is just not a good look. Then again, he probably doesn't care at this point. He's just trying to make it to the end of his term. He wasn't even there for the last night of the DNC. He was at his house, chilling. Apparently Tim Walz's wife did have IVF now. Yeah, I heard she had IVF. He's actually been campaigning about that. He's saying Trump wants to ban IVF treatments, which I don't know if that's true or not. We probably need to look that up. I don't think it is. I know the whole abortion thing is kind of squirrely, but I haven't heard anything about Trump trying to ban IVF. But yeah, basically they're campaigning saying Trump is trying... Oh, didn't have IVF now. Because I've seen nothing but weeks on end of Tim Walz coming out and giving his speeches saying that his wife got IVF and they couldn't have a kid, and this was the only thing that saved them from having to, or like getting a kid, and because of IVF they named their daughter Hope, and all of these lies, yada yada yada. Let me see. Let me look that up. Didn't have IVF. Gwen Walz. This is somebody from the Daily Beast. I don't know if that's actually a credible site. It was a different procedure, but not IVF. So along the same lines. Are we splitting hairs about it? IVF or some treatment similar. I get what he's trying to say. Oh yeah, this was yesterday. Tim Walz has described his family's IVF experience, but they use a different procedure. They used IUI, and that's often attempted before IVF, but doesn't face the same level of political controversy because it doesn't risk destroying an unused embryo that anti-abortion advocates say equate to unborn children. So he lied again. Damn. I wonder how they found that out. But I mean, I haven't heard anything about Trump banning IVF anyway. I don't know what we're even talking about here. Let's see. Washington Post. Let's see. There's a bunch of senators saying that if Trump is elected, IVF is in danger. But is there anything from Trump actually saying that he's going to ban IVF? Because I think that's a whole lot of BS. Here's something even from February. It says, ahead of South Carolina primary, Trump says he strongly supports IVF after Alabama court ruling. So he's not even opposed to IVF. That's another one of these things where the Democrats are throwing crap out there that doesn't... It's just not true. This is why we need a debate. Like, this is the reason right here we need a debate so they can actually argue on the facts. It's like them throwing the Project 2025 stuff out there. Like, it's just not true, and it makes them look stupid and not creditable. Yeah, there's all kind. This is even a Google search, so you know it's biased, and it's still saying Trump expresses support for IVF. Watch Nicole Shanahan, RFK VP on Adam Carolla. I'm impressed with her. I didn't know Adam Carolla was still having his show. I mean, she could be impressive. I don't know. I didn't see anything about her. But we all knew that RFK wasn't going to get picked. We all knew he was either going to keep running and not get selected, or he's going to drop out and endorse one of these people. So none of this really surprised me at all. Whoever that was with the like, thank you so much. I want to get like a sound effect for when people likes or like on the stream, so I can hit it and be like, boom, like some music or something. Make this more active. But yeah, we all knew RFK wasn't going to get picked. That's just not how it works. But seeing him endorse Donald Trump, if that's what's actually about to happen here, that's going to be really interesting. So we have RFK is going to come out here. He's going to give his speech, and then like right after that, let me look at the time actually. Trump is supposed to speak. So let me see. RFK was supposed to speak at 2 o'clock. And Trump is going to speak in 42 minutes. And he's normally late, so we can, like an hour or something. So I'm assuming RFK is going to drop out. He's going to say, I'm endorsing Trump. And then Trump's going to come out here. This is Trump appears at a campaign rally for his first appearance following the DNC. So I'm assuming he's going to show up at this campaign thing. And he's going to bring RFK maybe. Let's look into that. Because his event on his site says he's speaking at 4. So I don't know if PBS is just trying to start their coverage early. Maybe like the VP or somebody's going to come out and talk. I don't know. We'll have to see after RFK's announcement. We'll have to see what's going on. But I'm live looking at it right now. We're just waiting on him to come out. I don't know how late RFK normally is to give his speeches. Is Trump still in Arizona? I didn't actually check where he was at, but I have it pulled up. He is in, Glendale, Arizona is where it's going to be at. On Trump's webpage, it's saying 4 o'clock is when he's speaking, but PBS has it pulled up for an hour from now. So like 3 o'clock or so. So that probably means he's going to speak at like 5. For being realistic, he's not going to be out there until 5 o'clock. But I'm expecting that RFK is going to go from this event here. Because yeah, he's speaking in Arizona as well. You see, it all ties together. If he's doing this in Arizona, RFK, he's dropping out in Arizona. He's probably going to go over to the Trump rally. He's probably going to endorse Trump. That's just what I see happening. You can let me know if I'm crazy. RFK Jr. VP is very anti-Kamala, according to her interview. Doesn't surprise me. A lot of people are anti-Comrade Kamala. One thing I will say, her DNC event last night was a lot more lively than the RNC. I'll give him credit on that. As far as like the music and people standing up and actually like dancing, and it was completely different than the RNC. RNC was like very old music that no one cares about or have heard thousands of times, like AC/DC or something like that. A lot of people just kind of standing around, nah, not really caring too much. Well, the DNC, they were having a party, that's for sure. Have rioters outside, and they were having a good time on the inside. I wonder if, since he's dropping out here, is he gonna let the VP speak as well? Let me see who this VP is. RFK Jr.'s VP pick says they could drop out or support Trump. So this person already said that. Let's see what she's quoted saying. There's two options that we're looking at, and one is staying in, forming that new party, but we run the risk of Kamala Harris and Tim Walz's presidency because we draw votes from Trump, or we draw somehow more votes from Trump. That's a weird quote that they have there. It's kind of confusing. She said that she and Kennedy could walk away right now and join forces with Donald Trump, you know. We walk away from that one, explain to our base why we're making this decision, adding that's not an easy decision. If we're splitting hairs, I would say that I trust the future of this country more under the leadership of Trump. She said that in an interview while she's running in the JD Vance than I do of the Harrises. So she's throwing some shade at Harris. Yeah, it sounds like she even knew she wasn't going to win. So I guess that's just a political stunt. You run for third party, and then maybe some of these news sources will like report on you and get your name out there and attach it to your business or something just so you get some free airtime. How bad did Harris burn RFK to get him to go against her. So I also heard like RFK was trying to get a position like on her cabinet or something, and she denied him. There's a lot of rumors flying around. We don't really know what's actually going on. There is a CNN article that says Democrats ramp up efforts to block RFK Jr. from appearing on the ballots across the nation.
Hey everybody, we're just going to do one more final audio check just to make sure you can still get it because we had some new press people join us.
Oh, this is good.
So we can just do one more thumbs up. Everybody's doing good. Looking over here, I know someone over here was needed.
Nobody cares about you.
Still going. Still going.
Yeah,
here.
zoom in on his face.
Okay, going once, going twice. Just make sure you guys can all hear me. Just one more time. Thumbs going up in the air. Thumbs up. I'm just looking for our friend over here in the corner. Yep.
So they tried to block RFK actually being put on the ballot. That's pretty much what CNN is saying. It says the Democratic National Committee and Clear Choice PAC, a super PAC backing President Joe Biden that is focused on countering third-party candidates, have objected to Kennedy's ballot access in 4 states in the last month. Some of those challenges have been filed in key battleground states such as North Carolina and Nevada, while others are focused on his petitions in traditionally Democratic strongholds. So they just tried to block his presidency entirely. They weren't even gonna let. I mean, he's not gonna win. Why are they spending time on this? Like, just let him be on the ballot. Let's be real. Like, I mean, if that's their focus, really, not Trump. That's their focus. Like, come on. Although he does have a pretty good draw, I'll give him that. People do like him, and if he doesn't endorse Trump here, that's gonna be really good for Trump because Trump's starting to come up in the polls. Actually, let's see what the polls today are. I found one that actually consolidated all the polls. I really like that one. It's 270 to win, and it'll give you an average of all the polls, and it'll break it down for like all the different ones too. Let me see here. All national polls. Okay, so what is this? Oh, I gotta allow ads. Of course, they want their ad revenue. So yeah, Harris is still. What the fuck? I just said allow ads. Give me the website. Democracy is eliminating political choices. Of course. It's the only way to do it. Crush your enemies entirely. Okay, I think this is going to work now. Harris is 47.8, while Trump is 45%. So he's winning in the Fox News poll, and he's winning in the RMG research poll. Every other poll that they have in here, there's about 10 that they've put together that I can see. Every other poll here is showing that Harris is ahead. Does that mean she's actually ahead? I don't know. I don't know if we can actually trust these polls or not. But hasn't really changed in the last few days at all. She's still ahead. It's super close. I mean, she's almost 48. Let's just say she's 48% and he's 45. It's a pretty close race. Yeah, Fox News has has him ahead by 1%. That's the one he's winning in, and the RMG he has like a 1% lead still. Actually, they put a typo there. Thank you for that like. Appreciate that. So we're live right now. We're waiting on RFK to come out. He is suspected of dropping out in this speech that he's about to give, and he's suspected also that he's going to endorse Donald Trump. Now, this speech that he's giving is in Arizona. The Trump rally tonight is in Arizona. Trump also announced last night that he is going to have a special guest at his rally tonight. Who's that gonna be? Probably RFK for betting. This cameraman can't dial in. He's trying hard. They don't even do mic tests like that for Kamala or Trump. That was weird. Got another like. Thank you for the like. I don't know what's taking him so long. He was supposed to come out here at 2 o'clock and it's already 2:31. He just needs to come out here and be like, bro, I'm a loser. I'm dropping out. I admit defeat. Another like. Up to 7 likes. I wonder if I can break my record. We almost hit 10 likes yesterday. That was record breaking for me. All right, let's see what else is going on. So he's gonna take forever. Is there any news going on? So there's no White House press brief today again. There was not one the entire week. I don't think there was any other briefings either. They did do a CDC brief where they came out and told everyone that they need to get their boosters. I watched a little bit of that. The comments, the chat as well kind of went exactly how you would expect it to go. So there's this X page called Kamala Wins, and they were reporting that TMZ had said that Beyonce was going to be at the DNC last night. Obviously, she was not, but that kind of spread to all the channels. So if you even went to like Fox News, it said it on their little banner, like, oh, Beyonce is expected to be out there. They didn't have Beyonce. They had the Dixie Chicks. Woo. Pink came out. Pink. Who cares? I wonder how much money Beyonce was trying to charge them. Whew. She's trying to get that Obama money. I don't blame her. Get that money. Just do it. Is Beyonce part of the rich people telling us poor people to share the wealth group? Oh, I'm sure she is. She's going to agree to whatever message is popular at the time and whichever message is going to make her more money. Let's be real. Who's this chick? Is she going to say something? Nope. She left. False alarm. Big headlines. Harris summons Americans to reject political division and warns of consequences posed by a Trump win. What a title. What a title. Let's not be divided, but let's be divided. I was trying to give Kamala a fair shake last night, but she seems to be getting more drunk with power each passing day. I watched a little bit of it, but it was that same like lecturing that I don't want to hear. It's like, man, I'd rather play with my dog. I tried. I really tried. And she spoke a lot sooner than all of the other ending acts of the DNC. I was kind of surprised that she came out so early. I don't know if they were just trying to give her a big slot of time in case she needed to go over, but her speech really wasn't that long. And it was your typical Donald Trump bad speech. Jerome Powell came out and was talking today. I didn't get to catch it. He spoke for like 20 minutes. The title here of this one says, "The time has come for the Fed to soon begin reducing interest rates," which, golly, would I love that. I'm trying to get me a mortgage, fellas. Says, with inflation nearly defeated and the job market cooling, the Federal Reserve is prepared to start cutting its key interest rate from its current 23-year high, Chair Jerome Powell said Friday, obviously today. Powell did not say when rate cuts would begin or how large they would be, but the Fed is widely expected to announce a modest quarter-point cut in its benchmark rate when it meets in mid-September. So I was getting quoted under 6, like 5.75%. So they're coming down. They are starting to come down already, but if he starts cutting the rates, oh man, sign me up. Especially compared to last quarter, we were seeing probably like 7% or around there. I don't expect a drastic cut. I'm sure they're going to ease into it. But still, just seeing those rates go down would be nice. Did you guys hear about this airman? There's actually a video where he answered his door with a gun and the police shot him and killed him. He was inside of his apartment. And I guess they're actually going to try the deputy. It was kind of questioned if there's actually going to do anything about it. But it looks like today they're reporting that prosecutor says ex-sheriff's deputy charged with manslaughter and shooting of an airman in his home. Yeah, that was in Florida. I watched the video of that one. It was pretty brutal. Says the charge is a first-degree felony, punishable up to 30 years in prison. Jeez. Oh, here we go. AP News did a fact check on the DNC. This should be good. So they said Trump's views on an abortion ban. Vice President Kamala Harris said Trump would ban medication abortion and enable a nationwide abortion ban with or without Congress. And it says the facts. While Trump has said in the past that he would support a national ban on abortion, he said Thursday morning on Fox and Friends, I would never. There will not be a federal ban. This is now back in the States where it belongs, which everything that I've seen in the interviews, he's always said that he wants this to go back to the States. I never saw anything about him supporting a national ban. He probably could have in the past and then maybe switched. But yeah, I didn't see that. Yeah, but that's always been his plan, that he wants to leave it up to the states, which, you know, could be bad for some women not being able to get certain health care. Days later, asked by a reporter upon arriving in Atlanta whether he would sign a national abortion ban, Trump shook his head and said no. There we go. There's some people.
Hello,
Finally.
everyone. Welcome so much for being here. I'd like to introduce everyone.
Let's stop her. All right, so this is going to be RFK. He is supposed to be coming out here, and basically he's stepping down. He's not going to run for president anymore. Supposedly, he's going to be endorsing Trump in this speech. So let me go ahead and see what he has to say.
To bring on Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
That was a really quick introduction.
I'm sorry to keep everybody
music or
waiting.
anything.
16 months ago, in April of 2023, I launched my campaign for President of the United States. I began this journey as a Democrat, the party of my father, my uncle, the party which I pledged my own allegiance to long before I was old enough to vote. I attended my first Democratic convention at the age of 6 in 1960. And back then, the Democrats were the champions of the Constitution, of civil rights. The Democrats stood against authoritarianism, against censorship, against colonialism, imperialism, and unjust wars. We were the party of labor, of the working class.
Jesus.
The Democrats were the party of government transparency and the champion of the environment. Our party was the bulwark against big money interests and corporate power. True to its name, it was the party of democracy. As you know, I left that party in October because it had departed so dramatically from the core values that I grew up with. It had become the party of war, censorship, corruption, big pharma, big tech, big ag, and big money. When it abandoned democracy by canceling the primary to conceal the cognitive decline of the sitting president, I left the party to run as an independent. The mainstream of American politics and journalism derided my decision. Conventional wisdom said that it would be impossible even to get on the ballot as an independent because each state poses an insurmountable tangle of arbitrary rules for collecting signatures. I would need over 1 million signatures, something no presidential candidate in history had ever achieved. And then I'd need a team of attorneys and millions of dollars to handle all the legal challenges from the DNC. The naysayers told us that we were climbing a glass version of Mount Impossible. So the first thing I want to tell you is that we proved them wrong. We did it because beneath the radar of mainstream media organs, we inspired a massive independent political movement. More than 100,000 volunteers sprang into action, hopeful that they could reverse our nation's decline. Many worked 10-hour days, sometimes in blizzards and blazing heat. They sacrificed family time, personal commitments, and sleep month after month, energized by a shared vision of a nation healed of its divisions. They set up tables at churches and farmers' markets. They canvassed door to door. In Utah and in New Hampshire, volunteers collected signatures in snowstorms, convincing each supporter to stop in the frigid cold, to take off their gloves, and to sign legibly. During a heat wave in Nevada, I met a tall, athletic volunteer who cheerfully told me that he had lost 25 pounds collecting signatures in 117-degree heat. To finance this effort, young Americans donated their lunch money, and senior citizens gave up part of their Social Security checks. Our 50-state organization collected those millions of signatures and more. No presidential campaign in American political history has ever done that. And so I want to thank all of those dedicated volunteers and congratulate the campaign staff who coordinated this enormous logistical feat. Your accomplishments were regarded as impossible. You carried me up that glass mountain. You pulled off a miracle. You achieved what all the pundits said could never be done. You have my deepest gratitude, and I'm never going to forget that, not just for what you did for my campaign, but for the sacrifices you made because you love our country. You showed everyone that democracy is still possible here. It continues to survive in the press and in the idealistic human energies that still thrive beneath a canvas of neglect and of official and institutional corruption. Today, I'm here to tell you that I will not allow your efforts to go to waste. I'm here to tell you that I will leverage your tremendous accomplishments to serve the ideals that we share, the ideals of peace, of prosperity, of freedom, of health, all the ideals that motivated my campaign. I'm here today to describe the path forward that you've opened with your commitment.
Here we go.
And with your hard labors. Now, in an honest system, I believe that I would have won the election. In a system the kind that my father and my uncles thrived in, a system with open debates, with fair primaries, with regularly scheduled debates, with fair primaries, and with a truly independent media untainted by government propaganda and censorship. In a system of nonpartisan courts and election boards, everything would be different. After all, the polls consistently showed me beating each of the other candidates, both in favorability and also in head-to-head matchups. But I'm sorry to say that while democracy may still be alive at the grassroots, it has become little more than a slogan for our political institutions, for our media, and for our government, and most sadly at all for me, for the Democratic Party. In the name of saving democracy.
What's going on, Paul? Welcome back. Your guy RFK here is trashing your party.
The Democratic Party set itself to dismantling it, lacking confidence in its candidate, that its candidate could win in a fair election at the voting booth. The DNC waged continual legal warfare against both President Trump and myself. Each time that our volunteers turned in those towering boxes of signatures needed to get on the ballot, the DNC dragged us into court, state after state, attempting to erase their work and to subvert the will of the voters who had signed those petitions. It deployed DNC-aligned judges to throw me and other candidates off the ballot and to throw President Trump in jail. It ran a sham primary that was rigged to prevent any serious challenge to President Biden.
Oh, yeah, they did everything in their power to stop his campaign. That's what Nicole said. Also, she's donated over $100 million to the DNC her lifetime, and they never reached out to her unless they needed more money. Yeah, you got to keep fueling that machine. Paul says we don't claim him. Well, clearly, look at what they're doing to him. I would vote RFK for talking all this shit right now. He's not holding back. I mean, he's just telling his truth. You know, this is exactly what happened to him. And even, you know, we just read from the media, they're reporting the same thing, which is kind of weird because it's against the Democrats, but they're actually kind of turning on them a little bit. You see them actually pushing back on Harris a little bit now with her like price control policies. They're actually coming out and saying this is a really dumb idea. So things are interesting. The world's turning. A lot of change going on.
Then when a predictably bungled debate performance precipitated the palace coup against President Biden, the same shadowy DNC operatives appointed his successor, also without an election. They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential.
AP News has a great fact-check article on Harris. Is that the one from the DNC? Because I just pulled that one up not too long ago.
Nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days. This is profoundly undemocratic. How are people to choose when they don't know whom they are choosing? And how can this look to the rest of the world? My father and my uncle were always conscious of America's image abroad because of our nation's role as the template for democracy, the role model for democratic processes, and the leader of the free world. Instead of showing us her substance and character, the DNC and its media organs engineered a surge of popularity for Vice President Harris based upon, well, nothing. No policies, no interviews, no debates, only smoke and mirrors and balloons in a highly produced Chicago circus. There in Chicago, a string of Democratic speakers mentioned Donald Trump 147 times just on the first day. Oh, who needs a policy when you have Trump to hate? In contrast, at the RNC convention, President Biden was mentioned only twice in 4 days.
Paul, what's your counter argument to this? Because to me, he's making a lot of good points.
I do interviews every day. Many of you have interviewed me. Anybody who asks gets to interview me. Some days I do as many as 10. President Trump, who actually was nominated and won an election, also does interviews daily. How did the Democratic Party choose a candidate that has never done an interview or debate during the entire election cycle? We know the answers. They did it by weaponizing the government agencies. They did it by abandoning democracy. They did it by suing the opposition.
Yep.
And by disenfranchising American voters. What most alarms me isn't how the Democratic Party conducts its internal affairs or runs its candidates. What alarms me is the resort to censorship and media control and the weaponization of the federal agencies. When a U.S. president colludes with or outright coerces media companies to censor political speech, it's an attack on our most sacred right of free expression, and that's the very right upon which all of our other constitutional rights rest. President Biden mocked Vladimir Putin's 88% landslide in the Russian elections, observing that Putin and his party controlled the Russian press and that Putin prevented serious.
Imagine all the trash talk tonight if he is Trump's special guest. Yeah, I mean, they're already trashing him anyway. I'm sure they're going to double down. It's going to be pretty bad, but they already hate this guy. Well, Dems are happy with their choice of candidate. I'm not saying that they're not happy with their choice, but what do you have to say about him saying pretty much the Democrats censored his election, didn't allow him to run? They are using the media as a tool to silence people. They are suing Trump, who is the front-running Republican candidate, to try to get him to not run because of how popular he is. What do you have to say about the topics that he's bringing up? I think both of us knew that this guy was not going to win. He was not going to be the Democratic candidate. He was never going to win as a third party. That's not even in question. We don't care about that.
Opponents from appearing on the ballot. But here in America, the DNC also prevented opponents from appearing on the ballot. And our television networks expose themselves as Democratic Party organs. Over the course of more than a year, in a campaign where my poll numbers reached at times in the high 20s, the DNC-aligned mainstream media networks maintain a near perfect embargo on interviews with me. During his 10-month presidential campaign in 1992, Ross Perot gave 34 interviews on mainstream networks. In contrast, during the 16 months since I declared, ABC, NBC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN combined gave only 2 live interviews from me. Those networks instead ran a continuous deluge of hit pieces with inaccurate, often vile, pejoratives and defamatory smears. Some of those same networks and colluded with the DNC to keep me off the debate stage. Representatives of those networks are in this room right now, and I'll just take a moment to ask you to consider the many ways that your institutions have abdicated this really sacred responsibility, the duty of a free press to safeguard democracy and to challenge always the party in power. Instead of maintaining that posture of fear, skepticism toward authority, your institutions have made themselves government mouthpieces and stenographers for the organs of power. You didn't alone cause the devolution of American democracy, but you could have prevented it. The Democratic Party's censorship of social media was even more of a naked exercise.
This is another vote blue no matter who type of year, and that worked out so well. Yeah, I would agree with you that Kamala was never likable. Yeah, the media didn't like her. They flipped on her when she became the candidate, and I think it has more to do with people not liking Trump. I don't think people actually do like her. I think they don't like Trump, which that's a fair argument. I don't buy his narratives. I think Trump is guilty of all the shit he's getting charged with and doesn't think any rules apply to him. You don't believe that the Democrats actually tried to stop him from running? I don't know. That seems weird, man, because he was a Democrat and they don't even want him on stage. It just, come on. That would be too much of a coincidence. The Trump being guilty stuff, we could look into actually what he's being charged with. A lot of it, from what I've seen, it's petty. What they're actually trying to like put him through. At least the last one I heard, they're trying to like get after him for the porn star thing, and actually became like a accountant issue. Like a lot of that's just petty. No, I don't. No, you don't what? This guy is pissed. He is talking. He's taking the gloves on. Yeah, he looks pretty upset about this. And that's probably why he's going to endorse Trump tonight. And that's honestly a pretty good endorsement because people do like RFK.
As executive power. This week, a federal judge, Terry Doty, upheld my injunction against President Biden, calling the White House's censorship project, quote, the most egregious violation of the First Amendment in the history of the United States of America. Doty's previous 155-page decision details how just 37 hours after he took the oath of office, swearing to uphold the Constitution, President Biden and his White House opened up a portal and then invited the CIA, the FBI, CISA, which is a censorship agency, it's the center of the censorship industrial complex, DHS, the IRS, and other agencies to censor me and other political dissidents on social media. Even today, users who try to post my campaign videos to Facebook or YouTube get messages that this content violates community standards. 2 days after Judge Doty rendered his decision this week, Facebook was still attaching warning labels to an online petition calling on ABC.
So here's the facts, Paul. CNN is even reporting this. This is back in June. It says, as RFK pushes to gain ballot access in all 50 states, Democrats are ramping up their efforts to block the independent presidential candidate by filing legal challenges seeking to get his ballot petitions thrown out in several states. And it goes on to say the Democrat National Committee and the Clear Choice PAC, a super PAC backing President Joe Biden that is focused on countering third-party candidates, have objected to Kennedy's ballot access in 4 states in the last month. Some of those challenges have been filed in key battleground states such as North Carolina, Nevada, while others are focused on his petitions in traditionally Democratic strongholds. So it is true. They have, I mean, there's going to be evidence that there is legal pushback trying to get this guy not to run. So that's why I would say I do believe he is being censored. I don't think we can really deny that. And I'm not even saying that the Republicans wouldn't do the same thing if they had a third party candidate that was liked and needed to be taken out because he threatened Trump's candidacy. Trump just needs to take this and not mess it up, which he very well could. Yeah, he could totally fumble this. We don't know who's going to win at this point. The election cycle is so close when you look at these polls. Trump cries about the Hunter laptop being sidelined on social media site for a couple of days, yet Trump is cheating on his wife with a porn star, more likely to affect the outcome than the laptop. Yeah, I'm not saying that Trump is a perfect person or he doesn't, or even like a good role model. I'm not even saying that at all. What I am saying is it is pretty obvious that the Democrats did try to block RFK's candidacy. I don't think you can really deny that. I'm not sure on the party inner workings. I mean, it's reported right here. There's lawsuits that we can look at where they tried to block him. So again, it's kind of hard to deny it. And like I said, Republicans would do the same thing. You know, this is politics, baby. It's shady. Of course they don't want this guy out there. If they can block him, of course they're going to. If they have control of the media, of course they're going to censor the media. It's just the tables are starting to turn where Democrats don't have entire control of the media, and there's a lot of different narratives getting out there now because of X. It would have cost him the election, I believe. The Hunter Biden laptop thing or the porn star thing with Trump. Because I think when it comes to Trump running, his people that actually want to vote for Trump don't really care about him cheating on his wife. I mean, they probably wish he was more of moral character, like an Obama, but this is the guy that's actually siding with the policies that they believe, so they're still going to vote for him. I'm not denying that. The blocking his candidacy. Okay, I thought you were talking about that. That's why the Democrats started hating on Elon because he didn't hide the censored post. Exactly. You have different narratives being thrown out there now, so things are getting squirrely.
DC to include me in the upcoming debate. They said that violates community standards, their community standards. The mainstream media was once the guardian of the First Amendment and democratic principles, and it's joined this systemic attack on democracy. The media justifies their censorship on the grounds of combating misinformation, but governments and oppressors don't censor lies. They don't fear lies. They fear the truth, and that's what they censor. And I don't want any of this to sound like a personal complaint, because it's not. For me, it's all part of a journey, and it's a journey that I signed up with.
It's a terrible journey.
But I need to make these observations because I think they're critical for us doing the thing that we need to do as citizens in a democracy to assess where we are in this country and what our democracy still looks like, and the assumptions about U.S. leadership around the globe. And are we living up? Are we really still a role model for democracy in this country?
Right. So all of this information that he is letting out here is a bad look for the Democratic Party. I think we have to agree on that at least, especially because it's mostly true. You know, you said you're not denying it. The lawsuits are there. It shows what they're trying to do. It's definitely un-American. And name one politician that hasn't paid a mistress to keep quiet or have a secret abortion, right? Any platformed, I'm not gonna say that word, but I don't know if that's actually true. I might look it up and get me put on a government list, but I'm gonna look it up in a sec. People against shouldn't be having secret Wait, people against about shouldn't be having secret ones, in my opinion. Hypocritical. I don't know the saying. I'm gonna see if he actually was platforming those
Or
people.
have we made it, a kind of a joke? And here's the good news. While mainstream outlets denied me a critical platform, they didn't shut down my ideas, which have especially flourished among young voters and independent voters,
All good, man.
thanks to the alternative media. Many months ago, I promised the American people that I would withdraw from the race if I became a spoiler. A spoiler is someone who will alter the outcome of the election but has no chance of winning. In my heart, I no longer believe that I have a realistic path to electoral victory in the face of this relentless systematic censorship and media control. So I cannot in good conscience ask my staff and volunteers to keep working their long hours or ask my donors to keep giving when I cannot honestly tell them that I have a real path to the White House. Furthermore, our polling consistently showed that by staying on the ballot in the battleground states, I would likely hand the election over to the Democrats with whom I disagree on the most existential issues: censorship, war, and chronic disease. Oh, I want everyone to know that I am not.
So the first thing that I pull up says Democrats and many in the media love to repeat false claims that the president, and they're talking about Trump at the time, praised white supremacists in Charlottesville. Joe Biden even launched his campaign on this entirely fake news. As CNN's Jake Tapper has said, President Trump did not call neo-Nazis or white supremacists very fine people. And then there's a quote from Jake Tapper. It says, elsewhere in those remarks, the president did condemn neo-Nazis and white supremacists. So he's not saying that neo-Nazis and white supremacists are very fine people. There's a quote from Trump, and it says, I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists because they should be condemned totally. So just the first thing that I'm pulling up here, that's saying it's false.
Terminating my campaign. I am simply suspending it and not ending it. My name will remain on the ballot in most states. If you live in a blue state, you can vote for me without harming or helping President Trump or Vice President Harris. In red states, the same will apply. I encourage you to vote for me. And if enough of you do vote for me, and neither of the major party candidates win 270 votes, which is quite possible. In fact, today our polling shows them tying at 269 to 269. And I could conceivably still end up in the White House in a contingent election. But in about 10 battleground states where my presence would be a spoiler, I'm going to remove my name. And I've already started that process and urge voters not to vote for me. It's with a sense of victory and not defeat that I'm suspending my campaign activities. Not only did we do the impossible.
That was one of Trump's comments taken out of context. That's what it sounds like. I don't see him platforming Nazis, at least anything that I can find so far. So I'm going to say that one's probably false. Wink, wink, Trump is a master at creating plausible deniability. Yeah, but that was from a CNN interview. Jake Tapper is from CNN. So if Trump actually did say that, CNN's not going to run with what Trump wants people to see. They're going to run with what sells more.
By collecting 1 million signatures, we changed the national political conversation forever. Chronic disease, free speech, government corruption, breaking our addiction to war have moved to the center of politics. I can say to all who have worked so hard for the last year and a half, thank you for a job well done. 3 great causes drove me to enter this race in the first place, primarily. And these are the principal causes that persuaded me to leave the Democratic Party and run as an independent. And now to throw my support to President Trump. The causes were free speech, the war in Ukraine, and the war on our children.
But I was talking about Elon and Twitter. So I was talking about when you said Trump platforms Nazis. I don't know what about Elon on Twitter. Are you saying Elon's platforming Nazis? All politicians listen for keywords like saving taxpayers sound with less taxes. That's not true. It means they spend the money somewhere else. Exactly. You're not getting any of that money back. They got to pay for Ukraine.
I've already described some of my personal experiences and struggles with the government's censorship industrial complex. I want to say a word about the Ukraine war. The military industrial complex has provided us with a familiar comic book justification like they do on every war, that this one is a noble effort to stop a supervillain, Vladimir Putin, from invading the Ukraine and then to thwart his Hitler-like march across Europe. In fact, tiny Ukraine is a proxy in a geopolitical struggle initiated by the ambitions of the U.S. neocons for American global hegemony. I'm not excusing Putin for invading Ukraine. He had other options. But the war is Russia's predictable response to the reckless neocon project of extending NATO to encircle Russia, a hostile act. The credulous...
You're saying you meant Elon and why the Dems don't like him. So you're saying Democrats don't like Elon because he's platforming Nazis?
Media rarely explain to Americans that we unilaterally walked away from 2 intermediate nuclear weapons treaties with Russia and then put nuclear-ready Aegis missile systems in Romania and Poland. This is a hostile act. And that the Biden White House repeatedly spurned Russia's offer to settle this war peacefully. The Ukraine war began in 2014 when U.S. agencies overthrew the democratically elected government of Ukraine and installed a hand-picked pro-Western government that launched a deadly civil war against ethnic Russians in Ukraine. In 2019, America walked away from a...
On a side note, why are all middle-aged single women RNs? That seems to be all the single women I meet. It's a good job. Platforming white supremacists, conspiracy theorists. Yeah, I don't know. I don't see that argument for hating Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. I mean, anybody can get on there. Anybody can say what they want. I don't really consider that platforming Nazis. They even call it like the town center of the internet. So it's a place where anybody can go and share their ideas. And there is censorship on X actually. So I don't think hate speech like white supremacy is actually supposed to be on there. I think that's probably in their terms of service, even though I would agree with you that it does slip by. I'm sure there's stuff out there for it. I don't think more censorship is always good. I think more conversation should be probably the solution for that.
Peace treaty, the Minsk agreement, that had been negotiated between Russia and Ukraine by European nations. And then in April of 2022, we wanted the war. In April of 2022, President Biden sent Boris Johnson to Ukraine to force President Zelensky to tear up a peace agreement that he and the Russians had already signed, and the Russians were withdrawing troops from Kiev and Donbass and Lugansk. And that peace agreement would have brought peace to the region and would have allowed Donbass and Lugansk to remain part of Ukraine. President Biden stated that month that his objective in the war was regime change in Russia. His Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin, simultaneously explained that America's purpose in the war was to exhaust the Russian army, to degrade its capacity to fight anywhere else in the world.
I really enjoy a good conspiracy theory, not the wreck your brainwave tinfoil hat theories, but if something down sounds plausible. I'll enjoy looking into that. Yeah, me too. I like a good conspiracy theory. Even if it's stupid, it's fun. I like talking about them. I don't necessarily believe them, but they're fun for sure. But I also don't like mainstream media, so that's how I get to streamers like this. Yeah, and we're just a bunch of people sitting around telling our ideas, having conversations about it.
These objectives, of course, have nothing to do with what they were telling Americans about protecting Ukraine's sovereignty. Ukraine is a victim in this war, and it's a victim of the West. Since then, of Russia and both Russia and the West. Since then, we have, since tearing up that agreement, forced
Things are often not what they seem, and see, that's why conspiracy theories are so fun. Because maybe it's true. You know?
Zelensky to tear up the agreement. We've squandered the flower of Ukrainian youth, as many as 600,000 Ukrainian kids, and over 100,000 Russian kids, all of whom we should be mourning, have died, and the Ukraine's infrastructure is destroyed. The war has been a disaster for our country as well. We squandered nearly $200 billion already, and these are badly needed dollars in our communities, suffering communities all over our country. The Nord Stream pipeline sabotage and the sanctions have destroyed Europe's industrial base, which formed the bulwark of U.S. national security. A strong Germany with a strong industry is a much, much stronger deterrent to Russia, and a Germany that is deindustrialized and turned into just an extension of a U.S. military base. We've pushed Russia into a disastrous alliance with China and Iran. We're closer to the brink of nuclear exchange than at any time since 1962. And the neocons in the White House don't seem to care at all. Our moral authority and our economy are in shambles. And the war gave rise to the emergence of BRICS, which now threatens to replace the dollar as the global reserve currency. This is a first-class calamity for our country. Judging by her bellicose, belligerent speech last night in Chicago,
Yikes.
we can assume that President Harris will be an enthusiastic advocate for this and other neocon military adventures. And President Trump says that he will reopen negotiations with President Putin and end the war overnight as soon as he becomes president. This alone would justify my support for his campaign.
There it is.
Last summer, it looked like no candidate was willing to negotiate a quick end to the Ukraine war, to tackle chronic disease epidemic, to protect free speech, our constitutional freedoms, to clean corporate influence out of our government, or to defy the neocons and their agenda of endless military adventurism. But now one of the two candidates has adopted these issues as his own, to the point where he has asked to enlist me in his administration.
Ooh.
I'm speaking, of course, of Donald Trump. Less than 2 hours after President Trump narrowly escaped assassination, Callie Means called me on my cell phone. I was then in Las Vegas. Callie is arguably the leading advocate for food safety, for soil regeneration, and for ending the chronic disease epidemic that is destroying America's health and ruining our economy. Callie has exposed the insidious corruption at the FDA, the NIH, the HHS, and the USDA that has caused the epidemic. Callie had been working on and off for my campaign, advising me on those subjects since the beginning. And those subjects have been my primary focus for the last 20 years. I was delighted when Callie told me that day that he had also been advising President Trump. He told me President Trump was anxious to talk to me about chronic disease and other subjects and to explore avenues of cooperation. He asked if I would take a call from the president. President Trump telephoned me a few minutes later, and I met with him the following day. A few weeks later, I met again with President Trump and his family members and closest advisors in Florida. In a series of long, intense discussions, I was surprised to discover that we are aligned on many key issues. In those meetings, he suggested that we join forces as a unity party. We talked about Abraham Lincoln's team of rivals. That arrangement would allow us to disagree publicly and privately, and fiercely, if need be, on issues over which we differ, while working together on the existential issues upon which we are in concordance. I was a ferocious critic of many of the policies during his first administration, and there are still issues and approaches upon which we continue to have very serious differences. But we are aligned with each other on other key issues, like ending the forever wars, ending the childhood disease epidemics, securing the border, protecting freedom of speech, unraveling the corporate capture of our regulatory agencies, getting the U.S. intelligence agencies out of the business of propagandizing and censoring and surveilling Americans and interfering with our elections. Following my first discussion with President Trump, I tried unsuccessfully to open similar discussions with Vice President Harris. Vice President Harris declined to meet or even to speak with me. Suspending my candidacy is a heart-rending decision for me, but I'm convinced that it's the best hope for ending the Ukraine war and ending the chronic disease epidemic that is eroding our nation's vitality from the inside, and for finally protecting free speech. I feel a moral obligation to use this opportunity to save millions of American children above all things. In case some of you don't realize how dire the condition is of our children's health and chronic disease in general, I would urge you to view Dr. Carlson's recent interview with Callie Means and his sister, Dr. Casey Means, who is the top graduate of her class at Stanford Medical School. This is an issue that affects all of us far more directly and urgently than any culture war issue and all the other issues that we obsess on and that are tearing apart our country. This is the most important issue. Therefore, it has the potential to bring us together. So let me share a little bit about why I believe it's so urgent. Today, 2/3, we spend more on healthcare than any country on earth, twice what they pay in Europe. And yet we have the worst health outcomes of any nation in the world. We're about 79th in health outcomes behind Costa Rica and Nicaragua and Mongolia and other countries. Nobody has a chronic disease burden like we have. And during the COVID epidemic, we had the highest body count of any country in the world. We had 16% of the COVID deaths, and we only have 4.2% of the world's population. And CDC says that's because we are the sickest people on earth. We have the highest chronic disease rate on earth. And the average American who died from COVID had 3.8 chronic diseases. So these were people who had immune system collapse, who had mitochondrial dysfunction. And no other country has anything like this.
He's spot on here.
2/3 of American adults and children suffer from chronic health issues. 50 years ago, that number was less than 1%. So we've gone from 1% to 66%. In America, 74% of Americans are now overweight or obese, and 50% of our children. 120 years ago, when somebody was obese, they were sent to the circus. There were case reports done about them. Obesity was almost unknown. In Japan, the childhood obesity rate is 3% compared to 50% here.
Jesus.
Half of Americans have prediabetes or type 2 diabetes. When my uncle was president and I was a boy, juvenile diabetes was effectively non-existent. A typical pediatrician would see one case of diabetes during his entire career, a 40 or 50-year career. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks through his office door is diabetic or pre-diabetic, and the mitochondrial disorder that cause diabetes, also causing Alzheimer's, which is now classified as diabetes. And it's costing this country more than our military budget every year. There's been an explosion of neurological illnesses that I never saw as a kid: ADD, ADHD, speech delay, language delay, Tourette's syndrome, narcolepsy, ASD, Asperger's, autism. In the year 2000, the autism rate was 1 in 1,500. Now autism rates in kids are 1 in 36, according to CDC nationally. Nobody's talking about this.
Wow.
1 in every 22 kids in California has autism. And this is a crisis that 77% of our kids are too disabled to serve in the United States military. What is happening to our country? And why isn't this in the headlines every single day? There's nobody else in the world that is experiencing this. This is only happening in America. About 18%, and by the way, you know, there has been no change in diagnosis, which the industry sometimes like to say. There has been no change in screening. This is a change in incidence. In my generation, 70-year-old men, the autism rates are about 1 in 10,000. In my kids' generation, 1 in 34. I'll repeat, in California, 1 in 22. Why are we letting this happen? Why are we allowing this to happen to our children? These are the most precious assets that we have in this country. How can we let this happen to them? About 18% of American teens now have fatty liver disease. That's like 1 out of every 5. That disease, when I was a kid, only affected late-stage alcoholics who were elderly. Cancer rates are skyrocketing in the young and the old. Young adult cancers are up 79%. 1 in 4 American women is on antidepressant medication. 40% of teens have a mental health diagnosis. And 15% of high schoolers are on Adderall, and 500,000 children on SSRIs.
Jesus.
So what's causing this suffering? I'll name 2 culprits. First, and the worst, is ultra-processed food. About 70% of American children's diet is ultra-processed. That means industrial, manufactured in a factory. These foods consist primarily of processed sugar, ultra-processed grains, and seed oils. Laboratory scientists who many of them formerly worked for the cigarette industry, which purchased all the big food companies in the 1970s and 80s, deployed thousands of scientists to figure out new chemicals to make the food more addictive. And these ingredients didn't exist 100 years ago. Humans aren't biologically adapted to eat them. Hundreds of these chemicals are now banned in Europe, but ubiquitous in American processed foods. The second culprit is toxic chemicals in our food, in our medicine, in our environment. Pesticides, food additives, pharmaceutical drugs, and toxic waste permeate every cell of our bodies. The assault on our children's cells and hormones is unrelenting. To name just one problem, many of these chemicals increase estrogen. Because young children are ingesting so many of these hormone disruptors, America's puberty rate is now occurring at age 10 to 13, which is 6 years earlier than girls were reaching puberty in 1900. Our country has the earliest puberty rates of any continent on the earth. And no, this isn't because of better nutrition. This is not normal. Breast cancer is also estrogen-driven, and it now strikes 1 in 8 women. We are mass poisoning all of our children and our adults. Considering the grievous human cost of this tragic epidemic of chronic disease, it seems almost crass to mention the damage it does to our economy. But I'll say, it is crippling the nation's finances. When my uncle was president, our country spent $0 on chronic disease. Today, government health care spending is almost all for chronic disease. And it's double the military budget. And it is the fastest growing budget item in the federal budget. And chronic disease costs more to the economy as a whole, costs at least $4 trillion, 5 times our military budget. And that's a 20% drag on everything we do and everything we aspire to. Poor and minority communities suffer disproportionately. People who worry about DEI or about bigotry of any kind, this dwarfs anything. We are poisoning the poor. We are systematically poisoning minorities across this country. Industry lobbyists have made sure that most of the food stamp lunch program, about 70% of food stamps and about 70 or 77% of school lunches are processed foods. There's no vegetables. There's nothing that you would want to eat. We are just poisoning the poor citizens, and that's why they have the highest chronic disease burden of anybody, any demographic in our country, and the highest in the world. The same food industry lobbied to make sure that nearly all agricultural subsidies go to commodity crops that are the feedstock of processed food industry. These policies are destroying small farms, and they're destroying our soils. We give about, I think, 8 times as much in subsidies to tobacco than we do to fruits and vegetables. It makes no sense if we want a healthy country. The good news is that we can change all this. We can change it very, very quickly. America can get healthy again. To do that, we need to do 3 things. First, we need to root out the corruption in our health agencies.
Why the hell would anyone support a lying fascist like Trump? Can't they see who he is and what he stands for? Project 2025 is pure garbage, and he is a true danger to America and Europe. Well, he pretty much, you're talking about RFK, he just laid out why he is supporting Trump. So it was pretty much all in his speech, why he feels like he needed to support Donald Trump.
Second, we need to change incentives in our healthcare system. And third, we need to inspire Americans to get healthy again. 80% of NIH grants go to people who have conflicts of interest. These are the people, virtually everybody who sits, Joe Biden just appointed a new panel to NIH to decide the food recommendations. And they're all people who are from the industry. They're all people who are from the processed food companies. They're deciding what Americans, here is healthy. And the recommendations on the food pyramid and what goes to our school lunch programs, what go to the program, the Swiss program, the food stamp programs. They're all corrupted and conflicted individuals. These agencies, the FDA, USDA, and CDC, all of them are controlled by giant for-profit corporations. 75% of the FDA's funding doesn't come from taxpayer, it comes from pharma. And pharma executives and consultants and lobbyists cycle in and out of these agencies. With President Trump's backing, I'm going to change that. We're going to staff these agencies with honest scientists and doctors who are free from industry funding. We're going to make sure the decisions of consumers, doctors, and patients are informed by unbiased science. A sick child is the best thing for the pharmaceutical industry. When American children or adults get sick with a chronic condition, they're put on medication for their entire life. Imagine what will happen when Medicare starts paying for Ozempic, which costs $1,500 a month, and it's being recommended for children as young as 6, all for a condition, obesity, that is completely preventable and barely even existed 100 years ago. And 74% of Americans are obese. The cost, if all of them took their Ozempic prescription, is $3 trillion a year. This is a drug that is made by Novo Nordisk, the biggest company in Europe. It's a Danish company, and the Danish government does not recommend it. It recommends change in diet to treat obesity and exercise. And in our country, the recommendation now is for Ozempic to children at age 6. Novo Nordisk is the biggest company in Europe, and virtually its entire value is based upon its projections of what it's going to sell, of the Ozempic it's going to sell to America. And we have the food lobbyists have a bill in front of Congress today that is backed by the White House, backed by Vice President Harris and President Biden, to allow this to happen. This $3 trillion cost that is going to bankrupt our country. For a fraction of that amount, we could buy organic food for every American family, 3 meals a day, and eliminate diabetes altogether. We're going to bring healthy food back to school lunches. We're going to stop subsidizing the worst foods with our agricultural subsidies. We're going to get toxic chemicals out of our food. We're going to reform the entire food system. And for that, we need new leadership in Washington. Because unfortunately, both the Democrats and the Republican parties are in cahoots with the big food producers, Big Pharma and Big Ag, which are among the DNC's major donors. Vice President Harris has expressed no interest in addressing this issue. 4 more years of Democratic rule will complete the consolidation of corporate and neocon power, and our children will be the ones who suffer most. I got involved with chronic disease 20 years ago, not because I chose to or wanted to. It was essentially thrust upon me. It was an issue that should have been central to the environmental movement. I was a central leader at that time, but it was widely ignored by all the institutions, including the NGOs, who should have been protecting our kids against toxins. It was an orphaned issue, and I had a weakness for orphans. I watched generations of children get sicker and sicker. I had 11 siblings, and I had 7 kids myself. I was conscious of what was happening in their classrooms and to their friends, and I watched these sick kids, these damaged kids. In that generation, almost all of them are damaged. And nobody in power seemed to care or to even notice. For 19 years, I prayed every morning that God would put me in a position to end this calamity. The chronic disease crisis was one of the primary reasons for my running for president, along with ending censorship in the Ukraine war. It's the reason I've made the heart-wrenching decision to suspend my campaign and to support President Trump. This decision is agonizing for me because of the difficulties it causes my wife and my children and my friends. But I have the certainty that this is what I've meant to do. And that certainty gives me internal peace, even in storms. If I'm given the chance to fix the chronic disease crisis and reform our food production, I promise that within 2 years, we will watch chronic disease burden lift dramatically. We will make Americans healthy again. Within 4 years, America will be a healthy country. We will be stronger, more resilient, more optimistic, and happier. I won't fail in doing this. Ultimately, the future, however it happens, is in God's hands and in the hands of the American voters.
Jesus, that's getting deep. Yeah, this speech is getting good. You're right. He was kind of dragging on there for a little bit, but once he went into this food supply stuff, I'm like, oh my God. Want to know something funny? Kamala Harris doesn't have any of her policies on her website, but you can donate for the entire 2025 project plan. Yeah, I know. I looked a couple weeks ago and she didn't have any policies on there. I thought she was supposed to add some this week for the DNC, but as she started coming out last week and announcing her plans, things like price controls and all that, the media was kind of lashing out at her a little bit. So maybe she's revising her plans again before she actually puts it in writing. He won't do that. He's friends with Putin. He looks up to him. He wants to transform America into a fascist regime. He said that he wants to get paid to protect Europe. And he's a criminal. It's not really much in that. So But yeah, man, that was deep. This guy's getting deep with the food supply. People can't enter the military, which is true. I was seeing a lot of people fail their PT test as I was exiting the military. The Air Force was going back to taping the waist of airmen, making sure they actually meet height and waist circumference. And I know a lot of people were failing that. When they actually brought the tape test back, they had to give people a full year just to prepare, because people had got so obese during COVID. They had suspended PT tests during COVID. Wasn't a lot of people working out during COVID. And for years, that just kind of dragged on. And then they, even up to this year, this is the year that they're actually supposed to be tested on their waist measurements. So I know getting people into the military is not easy. People are not meeting BMI standards to get them in there. And just in general, man, like you go out, you go to some place like Walmart and just look around. You see people are not healthy. He is absolutely right. There is a huge issue. You can almost look at those people and assume if they're morbidly obese, they probably have high blood pressure and God knows what else. Yeah, this is intense.
And those of President Trump. If President Trump is elected and honors his word, the vast burden of chronic disease that now demoralizes and bankrupts the country will disappear. This is a spiritual journey for me. I reached my decision through deep prayer, through hard-nosed logic, and I asked myself, what choices must I make to maximize my chances to save America's children and restore national health? I felt that if I refused this opportunity, I would not be able to look myself in the mirror, knowing that I could have saved lives of countless children.
I had the opposite issue. Chad says my fat ass had issues with the waist tape, but back then my 1.5 miles was 9:30. I'm fat, but I can run. I had the opposite issue. I couldn't run, but I had no problem with the tape test. I could eat whatever I want, didn't care, but I didn't like running. I hated running. I'll go lift. That was fun. Oh, but people want to actually make me go run. Nah, bro, I'm good.
And reverse this country's chronic disease epidemic. I'm 70 years old. I may have a decade to be effective. I can't imagine that President Harris would allow me or anyone to solve these dire problems. After 8 years of President Harris, any opportunity for me to fix the problem will be out of my reach forever.
He's crying.
President Trump has told me that he wants this to be his legacy. I'm choosing to believe that this time he will follow through. His son, his biggest donors, his closest friends, and all support this objective. My joining the Trump campaign will be a difficult sacrifice for my wife and children, but worthwhile if there's even a small chance of saving these kids. Ultimately, the only thing that will save our country and our children is if we choose to love our kids more than we hate each other. That's why I launched my campaign to unify America. My dad and uncle made such an enduring mark on the character of our nation, not so much because of any particular policies that they promoted, but because they were able to inspire profound love for our country and to fortify our sense of ourselves as a national community held together by ideals. They were able to put their love into the intentions and hearts of ordinary Americans and to unify a national populist movement of Americans, blacks and whites, Hispanics, urban and rural Americans. They inspired affection and love and high hopes and a culture of kindness that continue to radiate among Americans from their memory. That's the spirit on which I ran my campaign and that I intend to bring into the campaign of President Trump. Instead of vitriol and polarization, I will appeal to the values that unite us. the goals that we could achieve if only we weren't at each other's throats. The most unifying theme for all Americans is that we all love our children. If we all unite around that issue now, we can finally give them the protection, the health, and the future that they deserve. Thank you all very much.
Wow. That's intense. All right, so there you have it. RFK endorsing Donald Trump. Kind of curious to see what Kamala is going to have to say about that one. All right, so just kind of switching gears, not really, to be honest. So RFK just dropped out of the race. He endorsed Donald Trump. He said a lot of negative things about the Democratic Party, and now Trump is coming out here. They are both in the same state. I'm assuming that RFK is probably going to go to the rally tonight, but right now Trump is speaking. I'm assuming he's going to take questions from reporters, and they're going to ask him about RFK dropping out. So let's go ahead and see what Trump has to say here. Oh, he's got the music on. It's about to stop though. Blah, 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 blah. Music, music. Oh, here we go.
Thank you very much. Wow. This is a nice place.
They're in Georgia, I think it was.
And I'm just talking to Javier. You got thousands of people outside on the street. They want to get into your restaurant, Javier. We're going to have to expand it.
Have to make a lot of tacos now.
You're right.
Hell yeah.
You're right. And thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for being here. We just had a very nice endorsement from RFK Jr., Bobby.
No, they're in Arizona. My bad.
And I'll be talking about that. We're heading out right after this. We're going to be going to Arizona. We'll be talking about that and a lot of other things too. But I just want to thank everybody, and I want to thank Bobby. That was very nice. That was really very nice.
Yeah, that was a good
That's big.
speech.
He's a great guy, respected by everybody. So thank you all for this incredible welcome we're getting. And I'm going to tell Javier the next time we do this together, he's going to give me a little light up here. You know, can you give me a little light so you can read this little speech? But you know what it does? It makes you speak a little bit less, so that's okay too. But I do want to thank you all, and I want to thank Javier. This is a fantastic restaurant, and the reputation is as good as it gets, as good as it gets. And I'm going to come here next time to eat. Is that okay?
Remember when Biden came out last election playing Despacito? That was pandering and yet funny as hell. Yes. Remember when he said, if you don't vote for me, you're not black? Just doubling down on the cringe.
We'll be doing that too. We have with us Lieutenant Governor Stavros Anthony, wherever Stavros is. Thank you very much, Stavros. That's an honor. We'll see you soon, okay? Thank you. That's really an honor. Great guy, too. And Nevada GOP Chairman Michael McDonald. Michael. And he's very happy about the no tax on tips because he was the first one that presented after the young, beautiful waitress that suggested. I said, what do you think of it, Michael? He said, I think it's a great idea. But we've come here today to talk about the biggest promise I think that the restaurant workers have had in a long time, and that's no tax on tips. And in our case, we mean it. Somebody that I know just copied it, but you know that's not going to happen.
So funny.
If you're a restaurant worker, a bartender, a hospitality worker, a caddy, a barber, a mover, a driver of any kind, or anyone else, you rely on a lot of tip income, hopefully a lot. But when I win in November, hopefully we're going to win. We're going to turn our country around. We're going to make America great again. We're going to let you keep 100% of your tip income and not be harassed. And just so you understand, the other side, Kamala. Have you ever heard of her, Kamala? Nobody ever heard of her before. She lost in the first round. She was the first one out. It's a weird thing. He got 14 million votes, and he's sitting on a beach angry as hell. And she got no votes, and she's running. So you explained that to me. But the United States is home to an estimated 5.5 million workers whose livelihoods depend on tip income. And they work with their hands and their talent, their sweat and their skill. And they are really skilled people, and they're great people. They're people that have been with me always, and I'm with them. I'm doing them a big favor. Nobody ever heard of this concept before, and it's something that makes a lot of sense. As soon as I heard it, I said, let's do it. And then they copied us a couple of months later, but I don't think anybody's buying it. I don't think anybody's buying it. It's like last night, the speech. She made 26 different things that were lies. She lied, but that's okay because a lot of people lie. They'll do anything to get elected, but she lied about, she's increasing taxes, I'm decreasing taxes, and she put it the other way around. Perhaps she misspoke, perhaps. Nearly 2/3 of the workers are women, and an estimated 700,000 single mothers nationwide rely on tip income to support their children. These are some of the best and hardest working people in America, and when I'm president, you are the ones I will be fighting for, and I'll be fighting for you very hard every single day. Kamala Harris is now pretending to endorse my policy. She's got a lot of other policies. She's a copycat.
Wasn't Kamala the tie-breaking vote to add more tax to tip workers? Or to hire more IRS agents to enforce the current tax tip? I don't know if she was the tiebreaker. We can look it up.
She's a flip-flopper. You know what a flip? She's the greatest flip-flopper in history. She went from communism to capitalism in about 2 weeks. But in fact, Kamala cast the tie-breaking vote to hire 87,000 new IRS agents to go after your tip income. They're going after it in a lot of ways. So I don't know what they're doing now. This has happened with a lot of industries. When we come out with something, they immediately fold. But you know that after the election, if something horrible happened, which is always a possibility, especially the way they cheat. But if something horrible happened, you know that you'd go right back and you'd never see anything about no tax on tips. You know that. Under Kamala and Crooked Joe Biden, where is he? Where's Joe? What happened to Joe? He's on a beach someplace. He's angry. The IRS has imposed costly and burdensome new reporting requirements on restaurant and other employers, and these employers are great people. They're great people. They really work hard, like Javier. They work very hard, and they do an incredible job. And this is going to make their life a little bit easier because, frankly, for them, it's a lot better, too, when they have happy employees that are making a little more money and just do a better job. People like Javier are very happy. He was happy to hear about this. Every restaurant owner is happy to hear about this. But they're trying to squeeze every penny out of this tip income the government is. And now they're not going to be able to do that. We're going to get this done very fast, too, by the way.
So the way they worded this is not really so the question here was Kamala Harris voted in favor of passing a law in 2022 to tax tips, and that's not, it kind of goes hand in hand with them hiring more IRS agents, but it's not really specific to what you're asking because they kind of PolitiFact, this article kind of goes around the question. But it starts out, it says an Instagram post shows a video of Harris voting for Inflation Reduction Act. Text overlaying the video reads, Kamala Harris hopes service workers forget she was the tie-breaking vote for the IRS to go after tips. The video then claims that the Inflation Reduction Act hired 87,000 IRS agents to launch a tip reporting site. Kamala taxed your tips, another text layer says. This post was flagged as part of Meta's efforts to combat false news and misinformation. And then their reasoning is, it says, people have had to pay federal taxes on tips for decades, long before the Inflation Reduction Act was passed. In 2021, the IRS said it planned to hire more than 86,000 new employees over 10 years, but those employees would not all be working in enforcement, which I think is what Paul just said here. That wasn't what all the agents were for, right? So that's what he just said. But those employees would not all be working in enforcement, and the IRS tip reporting program is a voluntary program that would replace existing tax compliance programs. So yes, that was for hiring more IRS agents, but they're saying that not all of them are for tip reporting, but that means some of them also were. So they did increase their numbers to go after these people. So it is kind of squirrely the way they answer that question, if you ask me. So I'll give it a kinda in a way.
Kamala also sponsored legislation to blow up the tip system entirely, which would...
Some states pay less than minimum wage to tip workers, so the majority of their income is tip income. I hate tipping as a business model. I also hate tipping as well. I think it's stupid. Just tell me the price and I'll pay it.
Inflict financial calamity on food servers and bartenders in Las Vegas and all across America. They have bills pending and things pending and resolutions pending and special orders pending where they're going after your tips. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Are they supposed to be dropping? I assume they're going to be dropping all that stuff, at least until after the election. They'll bring it back after the election. Kamala supports a bill to eliminate the federal tip credit, which would force restaurants to impose large service charges on diners, meaning customers will not leave tips at all, and you'll be stuck with a minimum wage or whatever you might be making. This is something that they're forcing. They
are more going after the big tax cheats who are lawyered up. Yeah, I don't believe that. I don't know. Anytime the IRS hires a huge number of people, like 86,000 new employees, and they say, oh yeah, we're just going after the big corporations. I don't believe that. You can call me pessimistic, but not me.
I will never let that happen. Under the Trump administration, you'll keep your tips, and restaurant workers will keep all of your hard-earned money. I met this incredible young woman. She was standing behind the counter. I walked into a restaurant, whatever it may be. What was that restaurant? That Chick-fil-A, right? Very religious owner and a great guy, and it's good stuff.
I love Chick-fil-A.
And she saw me and she said, President Trump, and she gave me the biggest hug. She said, you saved my college. And she loved that college, right? And you love me, and I love you too. I do actually. But it was like instant chemistry, right?
Yes, immediate. I told them earlier, we're best friends.
Yeah. They didn't know I was coming. We do that surprise. I guess we do that for certain reasons, like security and things. We don't want to broadcast it too much. But I walked in and she grabbed me and I grabbed her. But I saved her college. That's the historically black colleges and universities. And
I don't think they're going after chump change. I just don't trust them, man. I already got letters from the IRS supposedly them finding issues with your tax return and saying that you owe money, and then they turn around and try and charge you crazy penalties. Like, I just don't trust those people. I was personally victimized by the 86,000 agents, so you were hit up too with one of those letters, I'm sure.
And she loved her college. She thought it was. I said, "Do you really like it? Was it good?" Go ahead, give it a little public.
I love the illustrious Clark Atlanta University.
Do you see? And she really did. It was great to see that, as opposed to, it was okay. She thought it was great. So I'll see you in a little while. Thank you, honey. Thank you very much for being here. We'll all be joined today by Nicole Williams, the mother of a 6-year-old member of the Culinary Union and a bartender. Can we get the Culinary Union to maybe vote for Trump? Because, they're great people. They're always have a head of, like a Democrat, the head, even if the Republican's better, and a lot of the Republicans aren't better, but I'm a lot better, and I'm the one that got this thing done. And so if we could speak to the head guy, let him be nice and easy, just relax, We're going to win. The state is looking very good. We just got a poll. We're leading by a lot. But we want to get the culinary union. How many members of the culinary union are here? Oh, you have a lot. I can tell you have a lot. But I think a lot of them, we had a poll done, and a lot of them are voting for us, I can tell you right now. But people that depend on tip income for our family. So, Nicole, if I could ask you to come up and say a few words. Hi, Nicole. Please. Thank you, Joan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is the honor of my life to be up here with my favorite president. And his no tax on tips policy is going to help my family. It's going to bring immediate relief to my pocketbook and my 7 kids. And all of you here who have children and families to take care of, this is going to be a great thing for all of us. So let's get out and vote for President Trump. Let's win Nevada for President Trump. Let's get out there. Register all your friends and family. Tell everybody about this policy.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Nice. That's great. Thank you very much, Nicole. Thank you. I'll bet she does a great job, too. I'll bet you do a great job. Do you have any doubt about Nicole? I don't think so, right? You love it, right? You love doing it?
I love it.
That's great. I can see it. Thank you very much. We're also have a little bit of a special announcement. Our host, Javier, began in the restaurant business as a dishwasher, worked his way up to being a chef. Now he owns an entire family of Mexican restaurants in Las Vegas and the Las Vegas area. How many restaurants are there? How many? 5. This guy's got a lot of cash.
Damn.
That's fantastic. It's a great story. We love the Hispanic people, and the Hispanic people love us. He was just saying.
He's about to pull a Biden.
He's not a big fan of what's happening on the other side. They'll destroy our country. We'll end up in a depression like in 1929 if they get in with what they're proposing. Last month, Joe Biden stopped at one of Javier's restaurants to tout his support in the Latino community. And, Joe walked in. It's like not the most. It wasn't too exciting when he walked in. He didn't know what
He was playing Despacito when he walked in, too.
the hell he was. What kind of a restaurant?
Just
Is
for
this
that, too, you
Italian?
know.
He says, "Is this a French restaurant? Looks like a French restaurant." No, we have to focus on her because he's gonzo, so we'll focus on her. She's terrible. She's worse than he is. By the way, he's the worst president in the history of the United States. Jimmy Carter is very happy because he is considered to be a brilliant president by comparison. He's a very happy man. And she's considered to be the worst vice president in history. I don't know who the hell did that. If they do polls and they do studies, she's considered to be the worst vice president in history. 6 weeks ago, they were laughing at her. She was a joke. And now she got the nomination. She didn't get any votes, but she got the nomination. Explain that one. But I understand that Javier has something he would like to say about that, and so I'll ask Javier to come up and say a couple of words. Thank you.
Let's hear what Javier has to say.
About the meeting you had with Joe.
Oh, thank you for being here, President Donald Trump. Me and my family really appreciate it. You guys give us the opportunity to host this event, so important. And I was telling them earlier, before you got here, that I came when Ronald Reagan was the president. And you know what? I really miss those times. So I need you to please make America great again.
Thanks, Javier. Thank you. And we will. We will. You got a good sample.
My daughter over there,
Yes.
and she agrees with you 100%.
Good.
My daughter over there.
It's a beautiful daughter.
She really thinks that you are cuter than Kamala.
All
I
right.
see. She
Awkward.
agrees on that. Well, that's a good thing to agree on. That's very nice. Thank you very much, Sonny. Appreciate it. Great job you're doing. So thank you to Javier, to everybody under my leadership. Our Latino American community has prospered like as you know, and as he knows, prospered like never before. Yeah. And, you know, we're winning. We won places. The governor of Texas called me. The last election, we won every border town along the border, and they're almost entirely Hispanic. And we won all of them. We won the votes. First time, they said, since Reconstruction. So
I'm glad he's more relaxed and lets people come up and talk. Yeah, me too, especially stuff like that. The guy was a dishwasher, and now he owns 5 restaurants, and they're nice. Look at his restaurant. It's nice. Love that. That's the American dream right there.
Said, when you say Reconstruction, you know, that's a little complicated word in a sense because it means a lot of things to a lot of people. But I said, that means Civil War. Is that what you're referring to? That's right. Since the Civil War, that's never happened. And we did it twice. We did it in 16, and we did even better in 20. We actually did much better in 20 than we did in 16. But lots of strange things happen in life, right? But we're doing better now than either of those two. There's more spirit. I mean, you look at outside in the street, how many people are out there, and I only hope they stick around when I leave and they come into your restaurant. You'll never be able to serve them, but it's just too many people. But you're going to see. But Hispanic American household incomes hit an all-time high under the Trump administration. Hispanic American unemployment rate hit the lowest it's ever hit, lowest ever. Hispanic American poverty rate reached a record low, the lowest number ever. And by the way, it's now inched up very substantially. And yesterday, Javier, they did something that was terrible. It was just found out. They reported that 818,000 jobs were here that weren't. They were fake. They reported fake jobs. And they were going to announce that after November 5th, the most important day in the history of our country, the election. They were going to report it after, but there was a whistleblower or somebody leaked it. There was a leaker, a friendly leaker, a patriot leaker, leaked it, and that's not a revision. You know, usually they call that a revision, like there's, 10,000 jobs. This is 818. I think it was the biggest number, certainly in memory. 818,000 fake jobs they reported. They don't exist. Total fake job. And this is what we're dealing with. And that's at a big number. That's a big, big downward number, in other words, on their reporting. But they reported these jobs, and now they've had to revise it and take them off the books. More than 1.5 million Hispanic Americans were lifted out of poverty during my administration. And the household wealth of the median Hispanic family grew by 65%. That's a lot, Javier. 65. It makes sense, right? Now it's heading south, by the way, just in case but we'll get it back up fast. The Hispanic American high school graduation rate reached an all-time high, and home ownership among Hispanics also hit a record high. And for working families and small businesses like this one, this is not a small business, this is a big business, but we'll call it a small business for tax purposes, okay? We delivered the largest tax cuts and regulation cuts in the history of our country. We achieved energy independence, and we built the greatest economy any time in the history of the world. It was the strongest economy anybody had ever seen. Under Kamala, it has been one disaster after another. Take a look at the border. You want to really see a disaster. I was there yesterday. What a disaster. After Kamala cast the tie-breaking votes on the bills that caused the worst inflation in decades, the Harris price hikes have cost the typical Nevada family. And you take a look. So the Nevada family spent $32,000 more under this horrible regime of people that don't know what the hell they're doing. Now Kamala is promising communist price controls on food. Her plan will cause catastrophic inflation, shortages of rationing. The restaurant industry will be obliterated. And I say welcome to 1929. Do you know what 1929 was? You don't want to know, right? You don't want to know, but that's where they're headed if they do what they're planning. Kamala is also pledging the largest tax hikes in American history, and Las Vegas hospitality industry would actually never recover from that. It's the largest tax hikes in history. And, you know, you heard her words last night. She doesn't talk about that. You notice they talked, I guess she mentioned the Trump name many, many times, like 19 or 21 or something. She didn't mention the border. She didn't mention inflation. She didn't mention the bad economy. She didn't mention crime. She didn't mention any of the things that she's supposed to be mentioning. But she mentioned Trump 21 times or some crazy thing. And she mentioned thank you about 50 times. Did you see the beginning? Thank you, 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 thank you.
She does that.
I said, what the hell is wrong with her?
And she has her like fake smile as she's doing it. Thank you, thank you. And just like cheesing hard, like typical political smile.
But then she recovered. She did much better. But she didn't tell anything. She didn't say anything. She talked about her family, how beautiful San Francisco was. I just put out a note. I said, well, the word "was" is very important because what the hell happened? Under her, as district attorney, she destroyed San Francisco. And then as the attorney general, she ruined the state of California with her stupid policies. But she was showing her beautiful life in San Francisco, and everybody was joking. That was before she destroyed it. She's supported the idea of a 70 to 80% tax hike. I don't think the man behind me will be happy. You wouldn't mind paying 80% in taxes, would you? What the hell? He says, whatever's good for America, right? 80% tax rate, and now she's even pushing a tax on unrealized capital gains. In other words, the appraisers are going to make a lot of money, which will soon be applied to small business owners, and you will be forced to sell your restaurant immediately, and the new owner won't do the job, and this restaurant will be closed. But we're not going to let that happen, Javier. We're going to make it bigger, better, stronger, just like the country. So this is really beyond social, because she's a socialist, but she's really a Marxist. A Marxist is a step beyond. Remember how you said at the State of the Union, we will not have socialism in America. We will never be a socialist country. I was right. We skipped over socialism. We're down to communism, okay? I was right about it, though. I like to be right. This is, thank you. I like that woman. Where are you? I like that. She said, you're always right. But this is beyond socialism. This is the beginning of communism, and it really is, and we can't let that happen. You look at Venezuela, you look at some of these countries that we all know so well, and what happened to them can happen to us. It's just a bigger version. That's where we're headed if this group gets elected.
Their audio's
But we'll
dropping
not
out.
let
There we go.
Kamala and the group turn America into a communist nation. I'm not going to let it happen. We can't let it happen. I'll cut taxes, and what we're doing is we're cutting taxes, regulations. We're going to defeat inflation, rapidly bring prices down, and make America affordable again. It's not affordable. People can't buy, as Javier said before, they can't buy sneakers. They can't buy anything. To help seniors, we will have no tax on Social Security benefits. That's a big deal.
I like that one.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure for restaurant workers, and all workers, tip workers, it's no tax on tips, but the Social Security, no tax, because they've driven them out of business. These people have suffered, and they've done things the right way. They've saved, and then the inflation destroyed them. And we're going to have no tax on Social Security benefits, and that's a big thing, and it's very important. Just as important as what I said before about the no tax on tips. Kamala wants to bring sky-high California energy prices to the rest of the country, and they have just destroyed California. First time ever, more people left California than came in. They've never had that before because they have the best weather, the most beautiful land. Everything is so good, but they have a terrible governor. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but he's got a great line of bullshit, you know? He's got a good line of stuff. We're doing great in California. You know the U-Haulets and the trailers and stuff? They go to Texas, Florida, other states, right? And they don't know what to do. They only go one way. They want to try and get them. They want to try and get them back. They have a hard time bringing them back. They don't know what to do. But under the extremist net zero energy policies, what you call them, the extremist, the radical people, they're really hurting our country and ultimately destroying our country. the environmental extremists, we call them. Nevada electricity prices have already increased by 50%. So it's 50%. Do you see them going up there? I mean, well, you see that? They've gone up by 50% over a very short period of time, and I'll unleash American energy, and we'll cut your prices in half. We'll be able to get your energy prices cut in half, and that goes for the whole nation. That's ridiculous that they've increased that much, and you see that. Wow, that's terrible. I'll deliver universal school choice, letting your child go to the public, private, religious, charter school of your choice, the family's choice, and it's something. School choice is a big deal. It's a big deal. Everybody wants school choice. And I'll support our police and stop the crime wave that was caused by this woman. What she's done on the border, she was the border czar. She doesn't want to talk about it. She said, I'm not the border czar. For 4 years, she's the border czar. Now she's not the border czar all of a sudden. You know why? Because people are coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. They're coming in by the millions, and they're coming from jails and prisons. They're slightly different meaning. They're coming from mental institutions and insane asylums. They're emptying out so many of their cities of criminals, and they're busing them into the good old USA. They're busing the worst gang members, the worst drug dealers, terrorists, and they're bringing them in and dropping them here, and they're saying, if you come back, we're going to kill you. We're going to kill you if you come back, or we'll give you the death penalty, but we're going to kill you if you come back. So they're dropping their criminals here. They're emptying their jails and dumping everybody, and these are tough people too, and they're dumping them into our country. And you take a look at the prison populations all over the world. We're not just talking about South America, all over the world, the Congo in Africa. Many people are coming out of the Congo, and they're coming from jails in the Congo. So their jails are being emptied, the mental institutions are being emptied, and they're all coming to the USA. There'll be customers very shortly of Javier's fine restaurant. What's happening is horrible. It's horrible. And they're destroying our country. And we're going to do the largest deportation in the history of America. We have no choice. We have no choice. And you see the death. You see the death and destruction they're causing. I was at the border yesterday with some people whose families were just obliterated by...
Oh my God, that the speech he gave yesterday with all those families coming up, that was just awful.
These horrible, horrible people that have been allowed to come in. And remember, terrorists are coming in at levels we've never seen before. Only bad things can happen. So I'll secure the border, keep radical Islamic terrorists out of our country, and we will do something that's very important. I will prevent World War III. You have World War III is on the cusp. You take a look at what's happening. Biden didn't have a clue what he did with Russia and Ukraine, what that happened. That's a war that should have never started. If I were president, zero chance that would have happened. It would have never, and it didn't for 4 years. Same thing with Israel. October 7th would have never happened. And you know what else? You wouldn't have had that horror show, the most embarrassing day in our history, Afghanistan. And very importantly, you wouldn't have had inflation, because inflation was caused by energy. Now it's caused by everything. And the prices are so high that people are being driven out of business, including a lot of Hispanic people, a lot of black people. What's happening with the black population is they're losing their jobs to the people that are pouring across the border.
I'm wondering if he's going to take questions. They have a bunch of reporters there. It'd be perfect time for him to actually take some questions.
The black population is being decimated. You wait till you see the real numbers that come. They're losing their jobs because Biden and Harris are allowing millions of people to come into our country, and they're taking black people's jobs, African-American jobs. They're taking those jobs, and a lot of those jobs are Hispanic jobs too. And the next thing that's going to be hit, you can tell your union leaders, the unions are going to be hit really, really hard. So I just want to end by saying that November 5th is a very important day. I believe it will go down as the most important day in the history of our country. That means you have to vote. It's going to be a big vote. If we win this state, if we win Nevada, we're going to win something that's going to be very, very special. We're going to win the whole thing. If you win, if we
Right.
win Nevada,
That lady's
we're going to win
drunk.
the whole thing. And I don't know how the hell we can lose it. I've never seen such support.
She had too many margaritas.
So, to Javier and his family, it's nice. Thank you. Thank you very much. I like that group over there. You know, they're a little bit frisky, but I like you very much.
A little margarita action over there.
So I just want to thank everybody here.
That's for sure.
You're incredible people. I'm behind you 100%. November 5th, you're going to vote a little earlier than that, but whatever you got to vote. Make sure your vote is secure, because remember, they cheat like hell. Make sure, and again, we win this state. We win the whole thing, and we're going to turn our country around. So thank you very much. Thanks very much, Javier.
Take some questions. Come on, man. What are you doing? Oh, you launch into some music. Really? That's it? What's all this footage here? Oh, he is taking questions, I think. Here we
You're
go.
going to have to work it out.
He is taking
I
questions.
think having his support is.
I had to step away from work. What did I miss? Same old stuff. Same old immigration, bad kind of rhetoric.
Okay, his words about your policies and praising your policies, is that to help you with the unaffiliated, like in North Carolina, the independent vote, and the Jewish vote, considering...
Well, I think so. He's just a respected person. Not everybody agrees with everything he says, but that's true with everybody. But he's a very respected person. He's really a very beloved person in many ways. I mean, he's beyond. I think, frankly, if the Democrats had treated him very badly, and then they ended up treating Biden the same way as they treated him, but they treated him very badly. I think if he ran in the Democrat primary, he would have beaten Biden.
But now I do want some tacos. Hell to the yeah. So he asked the question about, he was asking questions about RFK.
That's my opinion. But they wouldn't let him run. I mean,
He says he would have
came up with
won.
obstacles that were
He would have won the Democratic ticket, and I agree with him. I think if RFK actually would have got a run, probably would have won.
possible. Like you have to have 60% of the vote to run. And they came up with things that were crazy.
Yeah, I mean, come on. Harris or RFK? Biden, RFK. Maybe Tulsi, when she was running again.
But they didn't want him running. I think if he would have run in the Democrat primary, I think he would have won. I think he would have beaten Biden.
Mr. Donald Trump, what is your message for DACA program?
Yeah, one at a time.
Fox News has learned that at least 5 agents have been put on leave after what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. As the protectee, I'm just curious, do you feel that disciplinary action is warranted? Are you still able to feel safe with your security needs? And if you can answer the microphone.
Look, I have great confidence in the Secret Service. I've been dealing with them a long time. And I will say that I don't know about the 5 or the 6 agents that you're talking about. I think they're from, for the most part, a different area. But I will say that they have learned a lot. And we lost a tremendous person in Corey, as you know. We thought we lost 2 more, and they came back, and they're doing really well. They're doing really well.
People were kind of skeptical about RFK's vaccine statements. Yeah, I've been meaning to get around to reading his book just to see all what he was actually going to say in that before I really have an opinion.
As you know, we had 2 people that were so horribly injured, nobody thought they could make it. And the doctors up in the area, in the Butler area, these doctors were unbelievable. They saved them. But these 2 were badly injured, and now they're doing well. But a lot's been learned, and it'll make it better, and it'll make it safer. I will say this, that they've never provided us, and I think it came from the White House, they've never provided us with the number of people that we should have had for the massive rallies that we had. Like at the size of Butler, you saw thousands and thousands of people as far as the eye could see. And I've always said that. I mean, I just felt it. They never gave us the number of people in terms of Secret Service people that were necessary. And yet Biden, who would have 10 people at a rally, was loaded up with with Secret Service. So I've complained about that for a long time. They never gave us the number of people necessary. They were working with, and I know requests were made, but they were working for a long time, and a long time without the proper number of people. I've seen that, and just common sense, you could see it. Because we were getting crowds. So we had 107,000 people show up in New Jersey, in Wildwood, New Jersey. We had 88,000 people in South Carolina. We never had the number of people that were necessary to protect somebody in that, and including the people themselves. So I think they should probably look at that.
You mentioned rallies.
And that came out of Biden's office.
Jesus, one at a time.
On the general state of the race, there's a widespread perception that Kamala Harris replacing Joe Biden on the Democratic ticket has thrown you off your game, gotten under your skin. What do you say to that?
No, I think we're doing great. I think we're leading. We just had a Rasmussen poll. We're up by 5. We're doing, I think, very well. What is unfair?
He keeps saying that he's up in the polls and he's not leading the polls. I don't know what he's talking about. The only polls he's leading is Fox News. That's not a joke. It's what, RMG that I just said, and then Fox News. That's the only polls he's leading.
Is that it's unfair to him, but it's also unfair to me. I was leading by 17 or 18 points after the debate, and they said, he's going to lose. And they went and told him, you're going to lose. We want to replace you. Crazy Nancy Pelosi went in with a group with Obama and with others. But they went in with a group and they said, we want you out. And they took him out. And it was a bad thing to do, but also unfair to me. I spent $100 million fighting against the man that won in their party. And we had a debate, and the debate was good for me. It wasn't good for him. And then all of a sudden they take him out and they put somebody new in that never got a vote. She didn't get a single vote. He got 14 million votes. She got none. So I'm running against her. Now we're up in the polls. We're winning on the swing states, but I've got to.
No, I had brought up the polls. Chad says Biden always said that too, that he was up in the polls. We need to look at the polls after the debates. Harris is winning every poll that I saw besides 2. One was Fox News, and one it was like RMG something. It's some news station I've never really heard of before. I'm assuming the R is probably Republican. So might be a little bit biased.
Be 2 people instead of 1. That never happened either. So it's not a very fair thing, but I live with it. Yeah, did you have one?
Yeah, do you think the rank and file of the union for the culinary workers are going to peel away from the leadership who endorse Kamala?
I do. I think they're going to peel away and endorse me. I do. I think the culinary union is going to endorse a lot of the people. A big percentage of the people will endorse me. They always support at the top level. But they've supported me. I've had great support from culinary. Now with the no tax on tips, I think they're going to be very supportive of me. Yeah.
You mentioned what led you to post about women's reproductive rights this morning? Has your stance on abortion changed?
No, very good. I'm very strong on women's reproductive rights. The IVF, very strong. I mean, we're leaders in it. And I think people are seeing that, and votes are being taken, and that's what they've wanted for years. For 52 years, they've wanted votes to be taken by the states, and they wanted Roe v. Wade to be brought into the states. And it's really happening. It's really happening. We have a situation that for years that whole issue has been tearing our country apart, and now the states will get the vote. And, if you look at many of the states are up right now, and they're getting the vote, and they're getting the vote that the people want. They wanted the vote of the people. And like Ronald Reagan,
I wonder if he's adding the margin of error numbers in as well. That's the only way I can imagine him leading. And maybe because they are really close. I'll give him that the polls are pretty close.
I've gone through it a lot, but you're going to have choice, and you're going to have different things that you can talk about. But when you get into that issue and reproductive rights, I think what we've done is so right. What the Democrats do, take a look at what they're doing. They have the governor of Minnesota has the right to kill a baby after birth. After birth, this isn't.
What is the restaurant owner is thinking behind him? What do you think he's thinking? I think he's thinking that I just got free media for my restaurant. Everybody's going to come here now. Free advertisement. I'm about to be rich and I'm going to open my 6th restaurant. The vast number of Americans supported Roe. I would probably agree with you on that. I think that's where he gets a little shady. It's shady when they come out and they say that he banned abortion on the Democrats' side, but for him to say that most Americans supported the repeal of Roe versus Wade, I don't think that's right either. I think they're all a bunch of liars.
Abortion, this is after birth, because he's got that, and think of it,
Especially
in
women.
Minnesota, he's got that right. And how can you have a right like that? And they're actually the radicals. If you think about it, they're actually the radicals. So we brought something out. Everybody wanted it this way. Everybody felt strongly about it. Democrats, Republicans, liberals, conservatives, everybody.
Yeah.
And every legal scholar wanted it brought back to the states. They brought it back to the states. The states are voting on it right now. A lot of them are voting on it right now. And I must say, Ohio became much more liberal in the sense of that vote. You know that. Kansas, much more liberal. Others, I guess, different. But it brought it back to the people. Nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted it to remain in the federal government. And it won't be in the federal government. It will never be in the federal government. It will be in the states where everybody wanted it. And if you go back and look back 10 years, 15 years, everybody wanted it. Legal scholars, everybody wanted it brought back to the states. And that's where it is.
Do not want abortion rights to be taken away from them. How do you respond to it?
One at a time.
They won't be
Jesus.
taken away. They won't be taken away.
Mr. President,
Ex-president, so a lot.
I have no opinion on Roe. It's been an election topic since 1963. I'm thinking it's now just a fear tactic until Trump moves it to the states. Personally, this is where I differ from my Republican side, and I actually am for abortion as long as it's medically necessary. As long as they keep it classy, if you understand what I mean. I don't think abortion should be your main form of birth control, I guess. That's what I'm saying. But I think it should be legal. He thinks saying it over and over makes it true. Yeah, he was definitely repeating that a lot. And I'm with you, Paul, on that. I don't think people actually wanted that. I think a lot of conservatives maybe did. But I don't know. To say the majority of people wanted that, I don't know if that's true. Just Killer says, hello. What's going on, man? You are on Twitch, which is something that I never get viewers on. So I'm glad you're joining us.
Latin people believe in you, and I know a lot of dreamers right now can work legally. What is your plan with that people that right now works legal in this country because they are
You mean coming in legal? Oh, we're going to have a process to come in. We want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally. We don't want people that are murderers, that are drug dealers, coming in from jails. We don't want that. We want people to come in, but we want them to come in through a system.
Why is everyone screaming at him? I completely agree. They want to get their question in so they can get their money as reporters, right? But all they're doing is creating a hectic scene.
Legally. And we're going to open that system up. We need people. We need workers. We need a lot of people. And we want them to come into our country, but we don't want to come in from prisons. We don't want gang members that Venezuela gives us the MS-13 gang members. We don't want that.
A cornerstone of your economic proposal is to extend the 2017 tax cuts to lower the corporate rate further. Obviously, you propose no taxes on tips or Social Security benefits. Taken together,
Well, I'm reducing taxes. She's increasing taxes. And her increase on corporate taxes and even businesses like this, it's going to drive businesses into other countries. Because, other countries we have great international corporations. They can go anywhere. They can go into other countries. If they're offered better deals, they'll leave the United
Okay, I'll put my Twitch handle in the chat again.
States. And that's what she's going to be doing. She'll force businesses, big businesses, to leave with all the jobs and everything else, to leave us, to leave this country,
Yes.
and move to Europe and
Got another one.
many different places and they're always fighting for our businesses. And many businesses have left. But we don't want that. And if they charge
I'm trying to get 50 on Twitch so I can get monetized. What's your opinion on RFK Jr. endorsing Trump? I thought it was a very interesting speech. You should definitely go back to that one and watch it. My take on it, it seems like the Democrats kind of pushed him towards Trump. So it doesn't really surprise me. Which one is more beneficial for you, Twitch or YouTube? YouTube, I'm closer to getting in the partner program on YouTube than I am on Twitch. For YouTube, I need like, I don't know, I think it's like 700 more watch hours, and then I have to get my subs up to 1,000. So I'm pretty close on YouTube.
Too much. If they charge too much on taxes, these businesses, especially the big ones, they're international businesses. They're going to leave the United States. You're going to lose all the jobs, all the income, and we're going to end up being a third world country. And in many ways, because of the bad job that Kamala's done on the border, she was the border czar. Now she's trying to say she wasn't. But she ran the worst operation. I have the endorsement of the border people, the border unions, the ICE, every law enforcement group just about in America has endorsed me. What she's done on the border is so bad and so dangerous for our country, and it's going to ruin our country. We have to stop. We will have 100 million people come in from all over the world, not just South America.
Is your username a Karate Kid reference? Yes, it is on Twitch. But it's actually a American Dad referencing Karate Kid reference. It's a meme.
And this country will be a whole different place. It'll be a banana republic. But in many cases, when it comes to elections and borders, it already is.
So my question for you, Mr. President. RFK Jr. has falsely said that the COVID vaccine is the deadliest vaccine ever made. What is your response to that?
Well, I'm going to have to see, because I haven't seen him yet. I'm going to see him in a little while.
Mr. President,
Go
an issue here in Southern Nevada, availability of land. One of your policies is saying releasing more federal land, building of houses.
Yeah.
How will you enact that here in Southern Nevada? Because that is a huge issue here in Southern Nevada, and it will be in the coming years.
Well, we want to have land so we can have housing built in certain areas like this area. They don't have the housing. And we have so much land, and we want to put it to use. So we're going to have land released, and on that land, we're going to build housing. We're going to have housing built, and it'll be great for Nevada, and it'll be great for other areas.
I just want to follow up because I didn't ask my question before. So between all of that, between lowering the corporate tax rate, extending tax cuts, and proposal for tax tips, you propose all that without any changes to entitlement benefits. That's talking about trillions of dollars added to the deficit. How do you plan to pay for it?
Growth. We're going to have tremendous growth. We're going to have tremendous. You know, if you remember when I gave the largest tax cuts ever given, we had a much lower rate, but the following year we took in more income. With a lower rate, we took in more income. And companies like Apple and others were bringing money in from Europe and other places. They were bringing in billions of dollars that they would have never brought in except for what I did. Also, just getting back to this other question, like Ronald Reagan before him on the abortion question, I happen to believe in exceptions. I think it's very important, but I say to people, you have to follow your heart. But probably you're at 85% of the people that agree with that in terms of just Republicans. But you have the life of the mother, rape, and incest. I happen to believe in the exceptions. I happen to believe also that the Democrats...
I would pick the one who isn't screaming. Yeah, me too. I don't want people screaming in my face. Are you for Trump or Harris? I lean more towards Trump, but for this abortion issue, I'm actually with Harris. I don't think people actually wanted Roe v. Wade to go to the states. I don't think that's something that was actually needed.
Democrats are the radical ones because they will do abortions and approve abortions in the 9th month, the 8th month, and also after birth, which is basically the execution of the baby in some cases. If you look at Minnesota, they have the right to do that. You have a man now who's running for vice president who signed a bill to sell tampons in boys' bathrooms, okay? Not to sell them, to give them.
To give them.
The exceptions to me is very important.
So stupid.
Some people don't agree, but for the most part, they do. I think it's up to probably 85 or 90%. But if you look at the voting, and it's so interesting to see, this issue is tearing our country apart. And it's really not tearing our country apart anymore, because now people get to vote, and they get to vote in their state. And for the most part, they believe in the exceptions, and they want the exceptions. It makes it a much easier way. At the same time, you have to follow your heart. You have to do what's right. But we brought it locally. It'll never be in the federal government again. It should.
Yeah, unless Harris pulls something out of somewhere and convinces me otherwise, which she still has time. We have time still. That's why I watch both sides on here. The whole point of this channel was to figure out who I want to vote for. So I try to be not biased, but from everything that I've watched so far, I lean towards Trump, but not this abortion issue. That's where I think Harris can actually do some damage to Trump if she wants to actually win.
Should have never been there. And again, for 52 years, from the beginning of
You're
Roe v.
biased.
Wade, people have wanted to get it out. And many presidents have tried. They were unable to do it. And I just want to thank 6 very brave and brilliant Supreme Court justices for doing it. What they did is
Are you Trump or Harris?
very, very...
Damn, you're screaming.
Arizona now, and I'll see you.
Oh, there he goes. He's like, I'm out. Too much screaming. All right, there's Trump's response to everything. I don't know why they always got to play music. All right. Did you say something about that Twitter account, Kamala wins? Yeah, I did. They said something. Oh, they were saying that Beyonce was going to be at the DNC. And then TMZ was reporting that Beyonce was going to be at the DNC. Obviously, she wasn't. So I saw some like retweets of people saying, obviously this wasn't true. What the hell? Why are you trying to hype people up when it didn't happen? They just posted about RFK endorsing Trump now as a Kamala win. How is that a Kamala win? That makes no sense. But if I had to pick, I would choose Trump. Yeah, see, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, lesser of two evils, I guess. Anything that happens to Kamala, they're going to say that's a win. Somehow they're just going to spin it. An account like that is just not honest. And they're not credible either if they're going to post that Beyonce is going to be there to get people to tune in. So then they can lie about their numbers. Just gonna look one more time, make sure the White House didn't do a press briefing. That was weird that they didn't do one all week. Nope, nothing. Let's see what else is going on. Yeah, there was a CDC speech today. Jerome Powell said he was gonna lower interest rates in a different speech. We watched the RFK David Hogg is already bragging about the Dems taking over the House and presidency so he can come get the guns. If Biden is out of the pic, KJP has nothing to report. That's true, I guess. It's true. But it wasn't even out of the picture, really. I mean, he went to the DNC like one night, and then the rest of the nights he watched it at home. All right, I think I'm about 3 hours into streaming. I'm going to hop off here and see what's going on with the family. If y'all enjoyed it, please subscribe. Please come back. You know, we talk about politics. I do it almost every day, a stream. So definitely come hang out. And I'll be back tomorrow.